These are the two Duel Masters theme decks released in DM10, the last and currently the most expensive theme decks ever released. One of these sealed puppies will set you back over $300 on eBay, and in this video I will break open the seal, unbox both of them, and pitch them up against each other in a best of 3 duel to see which deck renders itself victorious and which deck must admit defeat. This is particularly exciting for me because I have no idea what these two decks contain. It took so much self-control for me not to look it up and spoil myself, but here we are. So, the two theme decks we have here are Twin Swarm and Hard Silence. I can just guess by the name of this that it's going to be a deck based around Silence Kill, so I'm not that confident that it will be good. And this deck, I have no idea what it's gonna be about. I assume it's just going to be some sort of aggressive fire theme deck, but we will have to see. It's actually interesting because I don't think I've ever played with the Silence Kill cards before, since they're kind of widely known to be bad. But I'll give this deck a solid chance and we'll see how it fares when matched up against the other one. Okay, let's just get into it. We will start with the Twin Swarm deck because I had this one on the left. The box is very shiny. It says includes alternate art card. 2-player starter set gives new players everything they need to start playing Duel Masters trading card game. Oh, this is referencing the DM10 starter deck, it's not this one. And on the back we have Twin Storm deck. Your opponent will run home to mama after facing this tidal wave sized creature crazy fire nature evolution deck. Your small creatures evolve into mega betty big fatties and then squash your opponent, which is when he runs home to mama. Jesus, this is so cringe. It's actually great. It's delicious. Contents: a ready-to-play 40-card theme deck including an alternate art Shockwaves of the Shattered Rainbow premium card and a customized strategy insert. And I guess that's as much as we'll get out of the box. I'll bring my trusty knife to open this puppy up. This is how to devalue a $200 product. And there we go. Wow, the box is actually much bigger than the deck. I'm not sure if you can tell, but the deck is just like half the box. They could have fit it in like half as much cardboard, but I guess it wouldn't look as cool on the box. So we leave the deck here for now. Let's take a look at this strategy guide. Where should we start reading it from? Twin Swarm deck. During the ancient war between dragonoids and humans, a powerful magma weapon caused a major shift in the planet's crust. You can read these. These, I believe, they are the civilization descriptions that we see in every deck. We have the fire civilization description and the nature civilization description. You can read these on screen if you want to. I'm not gonna go through all of them now. Are you a new player? The best way to enter the Duel Masters would be to begin with the 2-player starter set. We also have this in the bracket tournament that we are running, but we are not unboxing it today. What is a theme deck? Theme decks like Twin Swarm and the Hard Silence deck are a great way to get into the game right out of the box. They're 40-card decks, each loaded with cards of a certain theme, such as Fire Nature. Wow, Fire Nature is a theme, huh? These decks are cool, full-size decks already built for you. Right, we have the deck list here, but of course we're not gonna look at it. We want to see the cards as they are getting unboxed. And here, playing the Twin Swarm deck, let's see. Dealing with blockers. Large blockers can be trouble for the early attackers. Right, so it does seem like it's an aggressive fire theme deck. So it tells you how to deal with blockers, how to bring on the evolution creature. So it seems like we're gonna have some big evos to act as finishers. Finishing moves. This deck can win in several ways. The quickest is to attack early and often with creatures that are good at fighting. You can also build up a large swarm and attack all at once. Choosing which cards to put in your mana zone is important. That's a good tip. And once you get the hang of playing the Twin Swarm deck, change your deck by putting in cards from the booster packs. We're not gonna do that today, obviously. Putting that away and getting into the deck itself. This should be exciting. The card... Oh, I thought this was a rubber band, but it's not. Take off the foil. The card at the very front is Armored Raider Gandaval. I haven't seen this card before, but it's an evolution that's put on one of your humans. While attacking, this creature gets plus 2000 for each of your other tapped creatures in the battle zone, and it's a double breaker. Right, so it's kind of like Armor Blaster Valdios, but he costs 1 more mana, which I think makes him worse. But he is bigger. He gets power himself instead of giving power to other people. So I guess that's your finisher for the deck. One of the evos. I assume there's gonna be more. And then we have oh my god, they're giving you a very rare card as well. A foil for this deck is Vrima Freaking Mojo Totem. So you're getting 2 foils in this deck. Whenever you put another creature into the battle zone, each beast folk in the battle zone gets plus 2000 power and double breaker until the end of the turn. Wow, interesting. So it seems like this deck is going to be humans plus beast folks. I would guess then that they would include Gonta in the deck. That would be very nice, but I don't know if they will. Although it's a deck released in Shattered Rainbow, so they might. Just having Gonta by itself in this deck would make it that much stronger. We have a human speed attacker, Megze Commando Leader, and we have 2 of them. Then we have 3 Fairy Lives. Interesting. I wouldn't expect an aggressive deck to want to ramp up. I wouldn't have expected Fairy Life in this type of deck, but it is what it is. Cavern Raider. Whenever this creature is attacking your opponent and isn't blocked, search your deck. You may take a creature from your deck and add it to your hand. So if you break shields, you can get card advantage. It's also Beast Folk, so I'm assuming that maybe we'll see some Beast Folk evolutions as well. That would be nice. Burning Mane for Burning Mane. Okay, that's actually not bad. It's a 2-drop, it's solid, it's a Beast Folk. We have 2 Bronze Arm Tribes. It's interesting that they put 2 Bronze Arm Tribes and 3 Fairy Lives. I would have definitely wanted to see more Bronze Arm Tribes in this type of deck, because it is a creature that can attack. We have 2 Brawler Zygers, so more humans. This guy I haven't seen before. Because he's a silence kill, that would probably explain it. It says silence kill. So that means that at the start of each of your turns, if this creature is tapped, you may keep it tapped and use its ability, which is destroy one of your opponent's creatures that has blocker. Right, so this is this way's deck of dealing with blockers. But the thing is, because it's a silence kill, it means that you have to summon him. You have to wait a turn because he doesn't have speed attacker. Then he needs to attack so he can tap himself, right? And then only 2 turns later, he gets his ability to destroy a blocker, which doesn't seem that great, especially since in order for him to attack, supposedly he needs to not be blocked in the first place. So I'm not convinced how good this card is, but we'll give it a chance. I'm not even sure if the other deck has blockers. Maybe they just included it because. We have Adventure Boar, which is again Beast Folk, 2-drop Beast Folk. We have actually a lot of 2-drops, like 4, 8, 10 2-drops, not bad. So just this deck might be able to cheese some wins just by summoning a bunch of 2-drops and attacking with them. Ooh, we have Windax, the Warrior Savage. This guy, 5 mana, 2000 power. He's a human and a Beast Folk. And when you put him in the battle zone, he ramps you up in mana and he destroys a blocker. So I think this guy is definitely the more solid way of dealing with blockers when comparing to the silent skill dude. We also have 2 Tornado Flames, which is not bad. Oh, Supersonic Jetpack, giving a card speed attacker. This might actually make the silent skill dude better, because if you can manage to get him out, then place Supersonic Jetpack on him, now he can already attack on the first turn, and then your opponent can't play blockers because they will just die. So maybe this combo works, and that does make this guy a little bit better in this deck. Silvermoon Trailblazer. Instead of having this creature attack, you may tap it to use its ability. Choose a race. Creature of that race can't be blocked by creatures that have power 3000 or less. Right, so it seems like there's a lot of blocker hate in this deck. I do wonder if the other deck has a lot of blockers. Otherwise, these cards won't be that useful. Starting to run out of space here, but whatever. And we do have Gonta, right? We have 2 Gontas here, which means already we're up to 12 2-drops, and they're not bad 2-drops at all, right? Gonta is definitely the best 2-drop in the game. I don't even think it's debatable. And it's time for more evos in Bark Whip the Smasher. So I was kind of expecting to see Bark Whip because there's many Beast Folk, and this was supposed to be an evolution deck. So this is nice to see. Definitely can snowball hard with this guy. And we have another Beast Folk evolution in Stormwrangler the Furious. Whenever this creature attacks, you may choose one of your opponent's untapped creatures that has blocker. That creature blocks a Fable, and this creature's can't be blocked by other creatures, right? So this is more blocker hate, a lot of blocker hate in this deck. And another Beast Folk evolution, a different one. This is from this set, from Shockwaves of the Shattered Rainbow, and when you put this creature into the battle zone, return all tapped cards from your mana zone to your hand, and he's a double breaker. Wow. So yeah, a lot of Beast Folk evolutions. This deck can definitely go aggressive. And let's just look at the last card, and it's another Armored Raider Gandaval, but this time in non-foil version. So this is interesting. There's 1, 2, 3 double breakers, evolution double breakers. There's a lot of blocker hate, but I think most importantly, there's a lot, and I mean a lot of blocker hate. So I think if the other deck is somehow reliant on blockers, although I don't assume that it is, but if it is the case, then this deck might perform very well against it. Let's gather up all of the cards and check out the other deck as well. We'll put this aside for now and check out Hard Silence deck. I think let's just read the description, because if it's equally cringe as the other one, it's just gonna be very juicy. Silent but Deadly takes on a new meaning with light, water, and darkness silent skill creatures. Right, that was kind of expected for it to have silent skill. It's interesting that the other deck has Fire Nature. This deck has literally all the other civilizations. Keep them tapped to use their special abilities, then control the game and win. Your opponent will cry uncle when you squish them like an ant. Right. The other description was funnier, but it is what it is. Just based on that, I like the other deck more. Let's see what the deck contains. Also, I'm not sure if you can tell, but if you can tell on camera, but the writing on these boxes is a bit like in 3D, like you can feel it when you run your finger over it. The boxes are definitely very nice. And again, we have our deck, and we have the strategy guide for the Hard Silence deck. Let's see, here we have the civilization descriptions for light, for water, and for darkness. They're the same as all of the other civilization descriptions in the other decks. Are you a new player? What's a team deck? This was also written in the other one. And if we flip around, sometimes the best defense is just a good defense. Silent Skill is a powerful ability Silent Skill is a powerful ability that takes some time and teamwork to set up properly, definitely some time. For you to use the ability of Silent Skill creatures, you keep them tapped during your turn. So this deck has a lot of good blockers to defend both you and your Silent Skill creatures. Right, so this deck does have a lot of blockers. That makes me kind of pessimistic of how it will perform when faced up against the other deck, which has a lot of blocker removal, but we'll see how it goes. Choosing which cards to put in your mana zone is important. That's what the other deck said as well. Use Silent Skill. Once you have a good, solid set of blockers, start sending out your Silent Skill creatures. Either attack with them or use their effect that taps them. Then wait until their powerful abilities give you the edge. Right, summon multicolored creatures. Use tricks. And once you get the hang of playing the Hard Silence deck, change your decks by putting in cards from booster packs, which of course we're not going to do. I think this guy that was on the box, I think I know him. This guy, I think he's the guy that makes your Silent Skill creatures go into the battle zone tapped. I hope he's in the deck, I would assume, since he's on the box. But the card at the front actually is not that, which is a bit weird, but it is the very rare from this deck, which is a Silent Skill double breaker, and the Silent Skill is breaking 2 shields. So instead of attacking with him, you can just keep him tapped and break 2 shields at the start of the turn, which is interesting. It's definitely not a bad card. I mean, 6 mana for 6,000 is solid in this format. And there he is, yeah, Mystic Magician. So this is, I believe, what makes the deck work. Your creatures that have Silent Skill are put into the battle zone tapped. And whenever one of your creatures that has Silent Skill would be destroyed, put it into your head instead. So if you can manage to get this guy out, I think the Silent Skill deck is actually pretty dangerous. But that said, you're putting them into the battle zone tapped, so you no longer have to wait a turn to attack with them. But that does mean that they're put into the battle zone already vulnerable. So you need to have a little bit of a board to be able to execute this game plan. We have some Spiral Gates to help with keeping that tempo up. Milporo, Silent Skill, draw a card. This guy can be good. I mean, it's solid card draw if you can manage to keep him tapped. Kelp Candle, it's a blocker that can dig for cards when he blocks. We have another Silent Skill card, Kaimira the Oracle. Silent Skill, add the top card of your deck into your shields face down. That's not bad. That could work. Hourglass Mutant, each of your water and fire creatures in the battle zone has Slayer. This is a very weird card to include in this deck. I mean, okay, I guess it's interesting. Because you do have water creatures, but honestly I would have just much rather had a normal Slayer. Although if you can get this guy and Mystic Magician, maybe there's some synergy where you make your water creatures Slayers, and then Mystic Magician, you can run them into the opponent's creatures and Mystic Magician causes them to bounce back to your hand. Maybe that's something that you can do, but I don't know. Fluorogil Manta. Your light creatures and darkness creatures can't be blocked. I mean, that's not a bad effect per se, but it's a 6 mana for 1000. That's just really, really bad stats. Flohandi the Spy Lord. I'm sure I'm messing all of these names up. I'm sorry, I haven't played with these cards very much. Silent Skill, choose up to 2 of your opponent's creatures in the battle zone and tap them. This guy's pretty good. Like, it's a 4 mana 4000, so you're not necessarily paying stats for it. And I think this is what needs to happen for Silent Skill cards to be good. Like, they need to have a decent baseline stat. Cosmic Wing, choose one of your creatures in the battle zone. It can't be blocked this turn. So actually, you have Cosmic Wing that makes things unblockable, and you have Florogil Manta, or whatever it's called, that makes things unblockable, which I guess makes sense because you want your Silent Skill guys to be able to attack without dying, right? But then again, when we look at the other deck, the Twinstorm deck, it's Fire in nature. It doesn't have any blockers. So there's a lot of cards that are just dead in that matchup. So just for facing these two decks against each other, it seems like the Twinstorm deck would be just a little bit favored, or at least that's the impression that I'm getting halfway through this unboxing. So Battery Cluster, it's just a blocker, okay. These blockers, they will help against the other deck, but then again it has a lot of blocker hate. More cards that make things Slayer. Oh, we have Tajima, that's actually a pretty decent blocker. 3 mana 4000, and if it battles fire creatures, it gets a massive power bonus. Submarine Project allows you to dig for cards. This, together with Kelp Candle, can actually dig quite a lot through your deck, which is good because I think you definitely need the Mystic Magician in order to make this deck function. Then we have Ruby Grass, more blockers. We have Gigamente, another Silent Skill which says return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Not bad. Estol, Vizier of Aqua. This guy gives you a shield and he allows you to look at a shield. So there we go. Dark Reversal brings a guy back from the graveyard. And Soderlight, the Cold Blade. I think this is one of the better Silent Skill cards. It's one of the only Silent Skill cards I know. It says this creature can't be blocked, and the Silent Skill is your opponent chooses one of his creatures and destroys it. And you have one of these. Definitely, if you get this guy out and manage to keep him tapped, you can just take complete control over the game. Palolasis, Morning Guardian. Quite a pleasant surprise to find this guy here. Makes your things more powerful during your turn. Is especially powerful with the blockers like Tajima and Ruby Grass, so we'll see how that works out. And finally, Aqua Skydiver, another blocker. He can attack, and he's also a shield trigger. So there we go, lots of Silent Skill cards, lots of blockers. Overall, I think this deck is solid for showcasing the Silent Skill mechanic. I do like the other deck more, at least in a direct matchup between the two of them, because it seems to be more tailored to counter this specific type of deck. But we'll have to see how they face against each other. Let me gather up all of the cards and say some final words. So there we go. Here we have our two decks, the Twin Swarm deck and the Hard Silence deck. Overall, I think they're both pretty solid, and we'll have to see how they face up against each other. I'm going to go ahead and sleeve them up, of course. Then we're going to jump straight into the best of 3 duel between the two to see which one comes out on top and which one advances in the structure deck bracket tournament. Stay tuned. So jumping into game 1, of course, on the left side we have the Twin Swarm deck in the red sleeves, and on the right hand side we have the Twin Swarm deck on the blue sleeves, of course, as the defining civilizations are fire and water respectively. I thought this was an appropriate choice of sleeves. As per usual, I'm doing post-game commentary at 1.5 times speed because I believe that's the best way to consume the duels. And we have on turn 2 Adventure Boar from the Twin Swarm deck, as it does run a lot of 2-drops, so it's kind of expected for it to start with a 2-drop. Interesting choice to charge the Burning Mane and summon the Adventure Boar instead of the other way around, but I guess, yeah, both have their advantages and disadvantages. And on the Hard Silence part, actually interesting, they charged the 2-mana blocker guy after a lot of thinking to play Submarine Project. Maybe playing the blocker was better since there's already an attacker on board, and that blocker could trade 1-for-1 with the attacker, but I'm going to assume that the hand was just so crap that they felt the need to play Submarine Projects to dig for something else. And there we go, Bronze Arm Tribe coming along, so already 2 attackers, and the Hard Silence board is just empty. And this is looking a bit scary, but the Hard Silence deck does have a lot of blockers, so it's probably fine in that respect if it can get some blockers on board. And there we go, Ruby Grass, that's a good blocker to have. That's a blocker that can untap itself after attacking, so it can kill, or untap itself at the end of the turn rather. So it can kill something and then still block the next turn. But that's a Windax coming from the from the Twin Swarm deck, as that does have a lot of blocker hate. So I do believe that it's going to be a bit difficult for the Hard Silence deck to keep blockers on board, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of what it has to do at this point. And there we go, 2 more blockers in Pagao Laces and Kelp Candle. And as long as these can stay on board, it's actually fine. Like, sure, they're down to 2 shields, but oh. And as I was talking, there's a Tornado Flame that presumably, yeah, kills the Pagao Laces, and now the only blocker on board is one with power 1000, and the last shields are gone. And of course the Bronze Arm Tribe doesn't attack so as to not die, together with the Kelp Candle, which would be able to dig for more cards. And it's looking really rough. I mean, tapping 5 mana, maybe 2 blockers can come out, but okay, no. Just angrily slamming down the Magician, and it's just over. So it's time for game 2, let's see if the Hard Silence deck can bounce back into it. It was a rough game 1, the blockers were played, but a lot of blocker removal, as we talked before the duels, a lot of blocker hate really showed its colors. Interesting to charge Fairy Life on turn 1, that probably means that the Twin Swarm deck has a whole bunch of 2-drops to play. And there we go, Gonta coming out, that's gonna be rough. Like this game, Hard Silence charged Submarine Project and played Battery Cluster, as opposed to the other game. I guess lesson learned, to summon more blockers. But Gontas are gonna be tough to deal with. That said, the Taj Mahal on board, that is a 4000 power blocker that gets more power if battling a fire creature, and Gonta is a fire creature. So, and the Pagao Laces as well, building up a big blocker wall. This seems very difficult to break through. And 2 Beastfolk 2-drops, Adventure Boar and Burning Mane coming out. These guys can't really do anything against the blocker wall, and 1 more blocker coming out. Literally just playing a whole bunch of blockers and hoping for the best. I guess you kind of have to do that. And wow, Twin Swarm deck passing, not even charging mana. So I'm assuming they're holding some good cards that they don't want to charge. And I guess there's no rush, right? There's nothing happening. And okay, one of the cards that they were holding was Tornado Flame. Understandable, they didn't want to charge that, which does kill the Pagao Laces. And okay, two silent skill guys coming out, and yeah, of course, breaking a shield with one of them. You need to start attacking to keep them tapped, and you know, as long as the blocker wall lives, the silent skill creatures will start to get their effects. But oh my god, okay, that is probably the biggest blocker killer in the deck, Storm Wrangler. That guy can just choose a blocker every time it attacks and essentially kill it. And now that Tajimal is gone, the other two blockers are just too small for the Gontas. And Gontas have free reign to attack whatever they want. And this is... yeah, it was looking really good for the Hard Silence deck actually, but all of a sudden, with that Storm Wrangler play, it really turned around. And another Tajimal coming out, but yeah, it's just to slow down the deck. It doesn't actually help, because Storm Wrangler can just instantly kill the Tajimal. And unless they can remove the Storm Wrangler, oh my god, and the Hoo and the Bark Whip as well. This is actually, I think this is the wet dream for this deck. Like double Gonta, Storm Wrangler, Bark Whip. I mean, this is just such a scary board. Bark Whip empowering the adventure board, so it can't even be blocked. Okay, it would kill the blocker if it was blocked. And I honestly don't know how you deal with this board. Like this board, if you take this board to constructed competitive Duel Masters, you might be able to even win some duels there. Like I don't know what you will do. And here, yeah, Milporo can attack the adventure board, but I guess, okay, if you last one more turn here, you can use the worm guy to give both Milporo's Slayer and take out the big evil guys. But I don't know if there's any trigger that can win this. And there's not, and Gonta swings for game. So there we go, that was quite a one-sided match. I definitely think the Hard Silence deck can win this, but the Twin Storm deck, especially in game 2, managed to build such an oppressive field so quickly that it didn't even allow one silent skill creatures to activate its effect. One last thing before we end the video, this duel was of course part of the Duel Masters structure deck bracket tournament I'm doing on my channel. I will go ahead and fill in the bracket with today's result, but if you haven't watched the other duels yet and don't want to get spoiled, this would be a good time to close this video. There we go, another day, another match, and what a match this was. So far, interestingly enough, all the matches ended 2-0. Stay tuned for the next duels to see if the pattern repeats. Thank you for watching and take care.